everybody. We're not on tomorrow, so we're going to don't know what's going on with the video, so but you there, Vic?
Yeah, I'm here, ready and waiting, Chris. Yes.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I'll bring everybody on and I'll.
Hello, Mr. Hawes. Hi, Rob.
Hello.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, Phil.
Hiya.
Hi. I'm not sure what was going on with the video, but we enjoyed the bit of it from the beginning many times, I think it's fair to say. Welcome along, gentlemen. A special panel for this Easter Sunday. We thought it'd be special because of the performance on Friday. It deserved to be talked about. I think that's fair to say. One or two parish notices to start off with. If you're going to Gillingham on Saturday, the final away game of the season, of course, that departs West Swindon at 9:30 and the Nigel Eady County Ground at 10 o'clock. Members £22, non-members £24, and that space is available. So if you want to go to Gillingham next Saturday, then those are the times that you need to go for. Now, I'm going to start off by giving you a couple of really good stats. This is from the BBC website, Mr. Hawes, so I don't know whether you have claimed any responsibility for this. The positive is, this is an amazing stat. We were talking about this on the way back on Friday. Swindon unbeaten across their last 10 league games played away on Good Friday. 1-4, drawn 6, since a 1-0 loss to Bristol City in March 1972. Incredible. That's the good bit. Swindon have failed to win any of their 8 league games played on Easter Monday. Drawn 1, lost 7, losing each of their last 5 in succession. That's the bad bit. So Bromley at home tomorrow. We'll discuss later. Mr. Hawes, what do you think of those stats? They're incredible.
I think they are, pretty much out on the extremes. How much of predictive value they have is perhaps another question, but they are unlikely. And I'm pleased to say I have no recollection of losing to Bristol City in 1972, which gives me great pleasure to say.
No, I think I was too young to drive, so I didn't actually go there then. Thank goodness I missed it. Right, let's go through the stats for Saturday then. And the stats are quite incredible and, well, they're worth repeating. Grimsby Town 0, Swindon Town 4, Tom Nichols on 8, Ollie Clark on 32, Gabongo Shimanga on 65, and Botan Amin with his first Football League goal, 90 plus 5 minutes. The assist, Harry Smith on 8, Powell Glatzel on 65. I think Cottrell ought to get an assist also for that first, because he did great work as building up to that. But that's the bare bones of it. The 3-4-2-1 formation, Ripley in goal, Clark, Wright and Freckleton across the back. Clark getting a yellow on 76. Wesley replaced him on 78. A yellow for Freckleton on 81. Cottrell, Kilkenny, Nichols and Kirkman. Subawali on for Cottrell on 78. Glatzel in Shimanga. Amin on 87. And then Smith up front on his own and then dropping back to centre half. The referee, who I thought was pretty decent, Seb Stockridge. That lineup, that performance, Andrew Hawes, a delight to commentate on, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, really, as complete an away performance as I can remember in a long time. And here we are having the luxury of picking which was the better of 2 4-0 away wins, which seems pretty bizarre. But Fleetwood was kind of comfortable and deserved, but Swindon basically put away every chance they had there. I'm not sure the scoreline for this is that flattering, to be honest, when you look at the various stats and numbers, but they shut Grimsby down totally. It sounds like Swindon identified a weakness on Grimsby's left-hand side, I think, before kick-off. And if you think about it, that's where the 3 goals have all kind of originated from. So Cottrell's run, Glatzel's cross, and then the Sobowale one that's deflected to Amin, and the others are a free kick. So they had their plan. They implemented it perfectly. They didn't really give Grimsby a sniff. And I think I'm always something of a pessimist, as anyone who heard me be not convinced that the game was safe when Swindon were 4-0 up at Accrington would know. I think Rob was there at the time. But you sense once the third went in that Grimsby were kind of broken, essentially, and the game was just sort of playing out. But yeah, just so kind of efficient. We've had some wins that have been a great fun and complete chaos, but that was almost exactly the opposite. That was as comprehensive and clinical as I say, as I really can remember for some time.
Yeah. 2 4-0 wins back to back away from home, Rob. Scratching my head, I can't remember that happening. Whether it has or not, somebody might be able to tell us, but an extraordinary couple of performances. But what impressed me about Saturday, even though, like Andrew, I was sitting there thinking, all right, it's 3-0 with 5 minutes to go, we'll still lose this 4-3, as we do. It was as good an away performance as you can possibly remember.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to describe it for me, I think, is the fact that I'm as equally pessimistic as you two when it comes to being able to put teams away. But I said to Andrew, with about 10 minutes left, this is so comfortable. And it felt really comfortable. It felt like there was no way back for Grimsby. And we'd suffocated the life out of them with that. The midfield worked tirelessly. I've not seen performances of the level of Kilkenny and Nichols in the centre of that midfield for a long, long time. And I think the best description I could give for the game on Saturday was it clearly was, without doubt, Ian Holloway's most complete performance as a coach of Swindon Town. He would have been delighted with that performance because all he wanted from that side, they gave him every ounce of it. So he must have been absolutely thrilled at the final whistle because they couldn't have played it any better.
Yeah, Jamie, I mean, it was great to be there. I'm sorry to rub this in, Phil, but it was great to be there. And that song will live long in the memory, won't it? Grimsby get battered just like their fish. I mean, I think it was Malcolm who came up with that one, otherwise known as Rockin' Robin. It was a cracker, and it kind of summed up the afternoon for me.
I think absolutely right. Yeah, I think that will definitely go down as one of the most amusing kind of last 10, 15 minutes. But I think generally the atmosphere, actually, when you were going in the ground, felt positive. And I think that's the ridiculous transformation that's happened from those notorious nights, whether it be Colchester or whatever, where, quite frankly, we were going in just waiting to go home again. The positivity around the crowd going in. And I think even in going into the second half, we're going to score more goals here. I think there only looked like one team that was going to dominate the second half. And I think the fact that we clearly get better as the game goes on as well. I think something that I saw someone refer to is how fit we look going into the last 10, 15 minutes of games. We don't look like we're tiring. We look like we're getting better. And I think that's the full credit because we certainly weren't at the start of the season. But I think the other bit for me is I think the players really look like they're enjoying themselves. And the collectiveness kind of throughout, whether it was Amin scoring and those players' reactions to him or to whoever, it just seemed like there was a real bonding. And I think the bit Andrew probably got out of the interview for me with Holloway was Holloway's comment about taking everybody with him that was fit, because it was about team bonding as well. And again, what a transformation in approach, rather than it feeling like there's a bit of a clique or certain people involved and not. Actually, they are a team that includes these finishes, as they keep calling it.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a transformation on how we approach things in the past.
Yeah, I know, Phil, you weren't there, but you did watch it on TV, so we'll get your view on that in a minute and how that is. But it seems to me that there's not an offensive or attack-minded bone in Ian Holloway's body at the minute. I mean, hey, why bring defenders on when you're 3-0 away from home? Why not bring attackers on? Let's have another go. It's extraordinary, really.
And it didn't worry me sat in front of my screen, him doing that. I didn't think, oh dear, we're going to throw it away here. I felt totally relaxed watching them. And often when I'm watching them on the TV, which thankfully I don't have to do very often, you get a bit worried because you're remote from the game. But I was totally relaxed and chilled. And I didn't want the final whistle to go. Normally want the final whistle to go. I could have watched them for much longer. And it was just poetry in motion.
Yeah, what was the experience like? I mean, you go to most games away, home and away, but what was the contrast like between away and watching it on the telly?
Sky don't pick up the crowd atmosphere much at all with the single or two cameras that they have there. And so you're just watching it. It just feels you're not in it. You're on the outside watching. Whereas when you're in the crowd, you feel you're part of it. It's part of the atmosphere. So, and the fact that it was such an easy game, I didn't have to get too excited because they were just cruising their way through. And the only benefit is you could see the replays of the goals.
Yeah, it's true enough.
Which was, really helpful.
As complete an away performance since Crawley in 2019, says Andrew. Those who were there might well remember that. That was a completely dominating one. The referee, by the way, Stockridge. I thought he had a good game, Andrew. I thought he let it flow. Generally, there weren't too many disputable challenges, were there? I thought he let the game go.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think he had a fairly sort of easy afternoon, partly because Grimsby couldn't really get near us half the time. But yes, yeah, as kind of as refereeing performances go, pleasingly inoffensive is probably as good as we can hope for from League Two, and we got that, which was nice.
Yeah, well, that win. This is the 7th place. I think realistically is the only one we can go for, is if that is still on. I think that's realistically the only one. Colchester 66 points from their 43 games, 11 goal difference positive. Grimsby in at 8th, 43 games played, 66 points, -5 goal difference. Chesterfield 43 points in 9th place, 63 points from 15 goal difference. Salford 43 games played, 62 points, 5 the goal difference. Crewe 43 games played, 62 points, 5 goal difference. Swindon in 12th, 43 games played, 60 points, 9+ goal difference. And when you think we struggled to get to 0 for ages and ages and ages, now we got 9. And Bromley tomorrow in 13th place, 59 points from 43 games, 1 is their goal difference. How do you read that, Andrew?
If from December with absolute delight. From this point of view, there's just there is the horrible feeling that we're likely to just sort of run out of time a bit too soon. The other side is just having a look. Chesterfield have got Bradford.
Yes.
Monday. Doncaster have got Colchester.
Yes.
So Grimsby are away at Port Vale. Crewe have got MK Dons, which looks easier. So it's a kind of it's that sort of itch that won't quite go away, isn't it? You can't completely leave it alone, even though you probably know you should. It just takes so much elsewhere to go right, I think. And I cannot remember the last time that 69 points, which is the most we can get, has been good enough for a playoff place. But then it's a strange enough division that I think it was 70 last year that Crawley tiptoed in on and got up. So it's the rational part of you says time's going to run out, even if we win all 3 games. And I didn't think Gillingham will be that easy, but I've got to scratch my itch for a bit still.
Well, hey, who'd have thought this back in December, eh? I mean, I think, I'll take it, quite frankly. And I'll also take 13 goals in the 3 games, Rob.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's 70 goals in the season, one of only 5 teams in the English divisions, top 4 divisions, that have scored 70 goals. So and if you think back to the dark old days under Kennedy earlier in the season, when we used to struggle to even register a shot because he'd rather have crosses than shots, as we all well know. So it's an incredible turnaround. It's bordering on unbelievable to some extent when you can consider that the vast majority of the team that we're watching now take teams apart at a very, very good level are the same players that were struggling to link two passes together in the first 3 months of the season. It does seem an incredible transformation, and as you say, Vic, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you are. It's at this moment in time, I'm just delighted to go and watch them play like that. If there's any consequences to it, such as teams fall apart above us and we end up winning the last three and sneaking into the playoffs, so be it. Fantastic. But let's be quite frank, we've deserved to be top three for the last 25 games. We deserve to be bottom two for the first 16 or 17. So to find ourselves in the position that we're in now probably is reflective of our whole season, you have to say. And perhaps these next three games could come up with something special and give us an end to the season that we would all love to see. But realistically, get ourselves in a very good shape for the summer and let's properly attack this division with this kind of attitude and this kind of support and backing next season.
Yeah, and we should say, of course, there were 4 successive draws recently, weren't there? Which, that's 8 points, not one. And, of course, who will ever forget 2 defeats by Morecambe and 1 defeat by Carlisle. That's a lot of points that we could have had, etc., etc., etc. But if I'd been decent at football, I'd have had a good football career, but I'm not, so I didn't. So there we are. That's the way it is. Possession, Grimsby 45.3%. Swindon won on that comfortably, 54.7%. Shots, Grimsby 8, Swindon 13. On target, Grimsby 2, Swindon 6. Total passes, Grimsby 350, Swindon 416, of which 296 were accurate, Jamie. I mean, the passing as well. It's not only accurate, it's slick, isn't it?
But the difference is passing with positivity.
Yeah.
So we were hitting 400 regularly under other people in the past, and 300 of them were in our own box.
Yes.
I think that's the bit for me, is how much of it is dominant in offensive. There was some stat at the Bradford game, I don't know what it was for this game, about the number of box entries. I know that was the famous quote in the past, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But genuinely touches in the other box or going forward, because I think the midfield did a brilliant job breaking possession up, but they also did a brilliant job of getting it out to players to play. And I think that was the width is what for me has changed. I think going forward, we look like we're able to do it on both sides now. It looks like we've got people that actually are going to pass the ball aggressively and with a bit of pace. And I think that's been the key to changing the way that we're playing. It's not passing it around for passing around sake. And I think actually we are mixing it up a lot more as well. So I don't think we're easy to play against, because we are playing it through midfield. We are playing it down both wings, but we're not afraid to hit it up towards the forwards and turn them over. So I think it's just to Rob's point or earlier, it's a joy to watch.
It is.
I think the interesting bit for me is, are we going to run out of time slightly? Probably. Can we keep the momentum going? Because I think the most interesting comment I saw was one of Grimsby's media that said, if this is what Swindon like at the moment, they're the benchmark for promotion next year. Interesting comment from a third party. I know there's a whole load of caveats that go with that in terms of keeping the team together, but as we all know. But that's what we want to see, isn't it? If we do run out of time, we want to see it as, can we take this momentum in and keep it for next season?
Absolutely. And I think, Phil, we found a winger in Paul Glatzel, haven't we? I mean, his work down the right-hand side is exceptional. Those crosses are superb.
Well, when Drennan got injured, we lost momentum, didn't we?
Yes.
And I think it's Glatzel's coming back to form which we didn't know he had in that position, which has really changed the last few games, hasn't it? It's no coincidence that him playing so well and we're scoring lots of goals, and he has created them. And I just think the fire in his belly, in a sense, he doesn't want to be beaten. He recovers. If he loses the ball, he wants to get back at them. But he's also, the quality of some of his crosses has been brilliant, I think. When you think the way he can loop them across the area, and he gets it in the right position that the goalkeeper doesn't know whether to come or stay for it. And we've got on the end of them. So I was. If we'd had Drinnen, I've always said we would have been in the playoffs by now. Glatzo's coming into form. Probably he's a little bit late now, but it's been exciting to watch him play.
I think, Andrew, the thing is that Kevin says best away day for a while. It certainly was fantastic. And 3 draws is a win, to coin a phrase, says Daz. Well, we've heard that one before, have we not? The thing that oppresses me, Andrew, is you come away thinking, do you know what? I really enjoyed that. I mean, Friday was like exceptional, get that. But the way we're playing at the minute, you never say this result is done, do you? I mean, look at the comebacks we've had at the county ground, which have been electric. And then you go away and you win away at Fleetwood 4-0. You win away at Grimsby 4-0. And it's just great football to watch. I think that's the point, isn't it? It's just so enjoyable.
Yeah, no, it's been, and that's kind of what we've been starved of, really, isn't it? For pretty much the vast majority of 3 seasons, we had this sort of early Flynn ball chaos, which was great, but I think we knew it's going to be difficult to last with the size of the squad. But yeah, it is enjoyable, and perhaps we have been kind of a bit sort of overfed on attempted kind of passing out from the back and being a bit over elaborate with that, and sometimes there's nothing wrong with, you know, the kind of thing that Jamie was talking about, sort of, you know, those kind of forward passes that sort of get punched in and do kind of hurt teams, you know, rather than playing a more sort of patient game with it. So I think that's exciting to watch, and as you say, there's a delightful sort of stubbornness about them and fitness and kind of relentlessness at the end of games where you know, they really do refuse to just roll over at times. You know, I'm not sure I really saw that comeback coming against Brentford. I think even if you go back to the Tranmere game, that was getting quite tense. A few red cards have helped, but no, they have just got a real kind of persistence when things don't go well, and they do mix it up very effectively.
Yeah, it's fabulous to watch. Harry Smith leads the way with 17 goals from 40 games. Shimanga, 40 games with 12 goals. I mean, 13 matches, 1 goal. This is including substitute appearances as well. And I should also say an honourable mention to Will Wright, 48 games, 5 goals. It's an extraordinary contribution from him. Botan Amin, Rob. Now, there's an exciting prospect. He comes on just before the end, gets his goal. I don't know. The trouble is you can compete too much on a young player, can't you? And the pressure's on. People come looking. You know, his name's mentioned everywhere. What are your thoughts on him being a Swindon player next season? He kissed the badge, which is kind of always a little worrying for me.
Well, I do think in some respects what the player wants and what ends up happening may not be the same thing. I do believe that if there was money on the table, then we can't be certain he'll still be a Swindon player. That being said, I'm absolutely in the camp that it's too soon for him to leave this club. And the same would go with Joel McGregor as well. Both of those players at this moment in time need further games at this level to strengthen their hand to become better players. We've seen it with Amin now. He's gradually beginning to blossom into the talent that we know he's got, but he needs to do it more consistently. There's been games where he's flitted in, flitted out, not achieved anything. Then there was the performance at Doncaster where he was electric when he came off the bench. As of Friday, you can probably read in a couple of ways. Obviously, Grimsby were already beaten. And to see Amin come on at that point in time, it's probably the worst thing that they needed at that minute. But you've still got to put away the chance when it comes, haven't you? And for him to break his duck again in a game like that will do him the world of good, I'm sure. And it will hold him in great stead when they start to consider the options for next season. But I really do hope that the conversations that Ian Holloway's obviously had with his parents and with him, they'll see sense that he can get, I'm not saying he'll play every game next season, but he'll get a lot more starts next season. And that will hold him in a lot better stead. He will develop far better playing men's football than he will being stuck in the under-18s at a bigger club or the under-23s at a bigger club. And that's what would happen realistically. If he goes somewhere else, that's probably the route he'll end up. And we've seen talents wasted significantly in situations like that. And that's the last thing you'd want to see. So I do hope for everybody's sake that we still see him in a Swindon shirt next season.
Yeah, his build, Jamie, seems perfect to me. I mean, he's got strength and he's got pace, and he's only going to get, I assume, stronger if he, in his career. So he's got the kind of perfect build to cause defences all sorts of problems, hasn't he?
Absolutely, but I think Rob's right. It's the next couple of years that's going to make or break the future. And how many times have we heard it? It's not necessarily the player; it's the people around them. That temptation has got to be there, particularly when you get agents involved. It's how do agents make their money? By moving players on. And I hope it's that strong family bond that's around him and McGregor, if you like, that can see the bigger picture, because both of them clearly have potential. But how many of those, as we said, how many of those potentials have we seen in other players that are just breaking through? And quite frankly, we've never heard of them again.
Yeah.
I think with Armin, he's got that explosive pace, hasn't he? But how much has he improved under Holloway? I think that's the key bit for me. If you were looking at him as an individual, is he going to be with a manager that can actually dedicate time to him, that can build a team around him? For me, he feels like a player that someone like Holloway could make a much better player in a team that wants to play him regularly than him just being another name, another youngster in a big pool. Hopefully that's the pitch that Holloway's putting in. It kind of feels like that's the pitch, Stick with me and I'll develop you and I'll make you a better player. Because it looks like he's going to terrorize defenses, but what he hasn't got at the moment is the experience. We saw that against a couple of experienced left backs. We've seen it with McGregor against a couple of experienced left backs, and actually that's what you need to learn against. And how many times we said it before, that Division 4 football or whatever, that someone's going to kick you up in the air a few times, and you have to learn how to deal with that. Is probably going to do him a lot more good for a season, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it, Phil? Because the more notoriety you get, the more likely a big defender is going to think, right, I'll show you, mate, and then sort you out. That is what he's going to face if he stays in Division 4 next season.
But it will develop his skills enormously, because he will learn to react in those situations. While Jamie was talking, I was thinking back to Ethan Ampadu, who Vic will know from Exeter.
Yeah.
He got this glamour move to Chelsea and ended up playing in the Italian second division on loan before coming back up to Leeds. But it's a lonely life. He had a number of loans overseas, and it's not the ideal, I think, for development for a young man. They need to be where they're supported regularly. And I just think, I hope he realises that with somebody like Holloway, he's someone who knows how to develop a player. And he could learn so much with another season under Holloway, and with the experiences of Division 2 or Division 4, whatever we want to call it. And he will be all the better for it. And when he does eventually go, he won't necessarily be going to be just stuck in the reserves or the under-21s. He will have a chance of first team football because he'll have developed.
Sure. Some more comments coming in, which Glatzel's been superb lately, showing what we knew he could be capable of, and that's picked up by Derek, who says, hi, Derek. Glatzel's been a major part of our forward play since being moved out wide. I'll get your thoughts on Botan Amin in a minute, Andrew, but I also want to read this by Derek. If by some miracle we did make the playoffs, you would have to make us favourites to win them on our current form. Sadly, I don't think we will need to worry about them, though. Hi, Gary. It's the agents that's the problem, as Holloway said about McGregor. Yeah. Right. What about that then? I'll ask you about the playoffs and what the point that Derek's making about those in a minute, Andrew. But you've spoken to Botan Amin. He seems very level-headed, as most of the academy players are level-headed at Swindon. There's no question about that. What are your thoughts?
I think as everyone's kind of said, the sales pitch is clearly we can develop you, and we can develop you better in a first team environment than going back to kind of under 23s at sort of Championship or Premier League level. How seductive that is compared to money on the table from higher clubs is another matter. I mean, there's clearly interest out there, kind of how strong it is, but there's bound to be interest when you've got a 17-year-old coming off your bench and having an impact on games in League Two and doing it on multiple occasions. So I think the complication is Swindon can keep him. They know they've got him sort of locked up for next year under one of these kind of youth contracts, but if another club wants him at that point, then I don't think Swindon necessarily get the money, thanks to the the elite player performance program that they'd feel they deserve for him. So, to try and get him signed up is kind of a priority. So if he moves on and continues the progression, that Swindon will get some sort of value for the player they've helped develop. I suppose the only thing I think might help is because he's gone through the experience of being at a Championship academy at QPR and being released. So, whether that will have an impact on him, but I think even at his age, Premier League money is serious and talks. So we have to hope for the best, but I suspect he's gonna have options, and we have to hope that he sees Swindon as the best one for his development, because Ian Holloway's clearly done the sales pitch to family ME.
I remember seeing Robbie Savage in an interview. He was asked when was he financially secure, and he said, when I was 19 and signed my first contract for Manchester United. And you think, there you go. That's what you're saying, isn't it? I mean, they can have 40 odd players out on loan, these clubs, and it doesn't scratch the surface.
Exactly, and that they can kind of play. They can. I think they almost do in some ways. They play a numbers game. They can take in so many, and if they have to release a load, it's like, given the finances Premier League clubs have, it's like, it's
yeah.
If we end up like casting 10 youngsters aside out of the under-18 squad, so there
you go. Right, I will get back to you about Derek's point in a minute, Andrew, but I'll start off with Rob about that. If we did, and it's a big IF, right, like that. If we did, we are the form team, and I was saying to you on Friday, can you imagine that team playing at Wembley? I mean, they'd rip it up, wouldn't they? I mean, they'd love that space, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to hope so, wouldn't you? I mean, I suppose if we put all our cards on the table, if we were to make it to the playoffs, there is no doubt nobody would want to play us.
No,
not the way we're playing at the moment, and the results that we're getting. We would be the team that everyone will want to avoid. I think there's no doubt about that. And you're right. I mean, the big spaces of Wembley, the way that team is set up now, would suit us down to the ground, particularly when it comes towards the back end of games. As Jamie mentioned earlier on, the fitness would probably, and the changes, of course, because let's be honest, he's got his finishers and he's got his starters, as Mr. Holloway continually tells us. So the very nature of the fact that he will change things up will make us a very, very difficult proposition for anyone to play against. That being said, the teams in the playoffs at the moment are all good, solid sides. So there's still nothing that could be taken for granted there. I take the point. We are the form team of the division, but that doesn't get you anything when it comes to one-off matches, does it? It just gives you the confidence when you're there. How you perform in those games is what will determine it. And you would love to have the momentum behind you to be able to fall back on, but we know those games are complete one-offs and they can go any which way. So I would still say at the moment that I hate the playoffs. Always have said it. I've always said it. Absolutely hate them. If you sneak in as seventh, I suppose you think they're brilliant, but you'll still have exactly the same thoughts when you're going through those games as we had. Heaven forbid the Port Vale debacle of a few seasons ago. So I would look forward to it with absolute delight and absolute trepidation in equal measure.
I can't believe we're even thinking about it, to be honest. No. I mean, it just seems ridiculous to me. Hi, Adrian. How are you? Amin kissed the badge. That's a great sign he's staying. I I have mixed feelings about that sort of thing. And Gary says there are 10 scouts on the guest list at the home game against Bradford. So what will be, will be. And that's the trouble, Jamie, isn't it? But what are your thoughts on the point that Derek made? Are we in good form? Should the miracle happen? It is Easter, for goodness sake. Should the miracle happen with the form team, without question, as we know, top of the form table? What do you reckon?
Yes, we are. But if we start thinking about that now, we'll lose the next two.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's the point I was going to make when we get onto the Bromley match. Yeah.
I think for me, let's see what happens. And at that point, it becomes a completely different lottery. Although I would say the one thing that, because we are Swindon supporters, so getting too optimistic doesn't feel good. Didn't Doncaster win 10 in a row before they got into the playoffs last year? And then battered by Crawley.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was calling them out as the favourites because they didn't look like they were going to lose to anybody. So I think it's one of those that I'm with everyone else. We loved the playoffs when we won every single one of them. I think our last few experiences said that, quite frankly, it's not good for the heart, the pulse, anything. And I think at that point it's a lottery. But I'd rather be in the form that we're in if we did get there than Walsall. Or someone that, quite frankly, looks like they're going to fall apart at the seams, because I think that's what we can do to teams. I think I would fancy us against anyone because I think we could terrorise them, and I think we've seen the nervousness in Bradford. We saw real nervousness in Grimsby. Some of these teams that are fighting for that kind of promotion slot that have been there all season, you could end up really worrying them if you start to get at them like we do. I think that's what we do to teams at the moment. That's the form bit, isn't it? I think the players would believe in themselves, and I think that's the Holloway effect. Yeah,
definitely. I think, Phil, also, if you're a tired defender and you see the pace we've got coming off the bench, you must think, oh, goodness sake, we got rid of him. Oh, here's another one. I mean, it is like Wesley comes on and almost scores with his first touch of the game.
Wesley, I think, could be quite a key player in the next few games. Whenever he comes on, he looks dangerous. And he's quite robust, isn't he? He's quite strong physically, but he also has an eye for goal. He missed one on Saturday, which he should have scored from the TV camera angle. How it went wide rather than in the net, I don't know. But he was there. He was in the dangerous position. But I just think momentum is so key at this time of the year for us to get to the playoffs if we get there. But I got a feeling with Holloway, he would have the ability to keep it going because he's got something special about him with this group of players. Incidentally, one thought came to me the other day, we'll be missing Nichols at Gillingham, will we? Because isn't he on loan from Gillingham?
Oh.
No, he's on loan from Mansfield. So
yeah, Mansfield.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's relief.
Phew.
Apologise for putting out false fake news there.
That's fair enough. That's okay.
But no, I spoke to several Bradford fans before we played them. They were already worried about playing Swindon. So word was getting around the northern areas that Swindon were a team that were on the move. And I think the game at Fleetwood had shocked them that we destroyed them, and they were worried about us. And there is that fear of what we can do to teams now coming across the other teams.
Yeah, absolutely right. This is from Sean. Evening, Mr. Stark. Honestly, Sean, I expect a note. Didn't know. Well, here we are. Looking at tomorrow's fixtures, there's a chance of us being only 3 points behind come tomorrow night. But Andrew, as we all know in football, it can go the other way too. And as Jamie said, hit the nail on the head regarding Swindon fans. It's kind of half glass empty, isn't it? Really, not the other way around. So, yes, we're in form, but it could all change within an instant, couldn't it?
Yeah, no, he did beat me to the punch on the point about Doncaster. So I was ready to reinforce the fear.
Sorry, Andrew, that's your stat probably, isn't it?
No, that's right. Yeah, I mean, of course, that's the converse side. Tomorrow it could be all over if the results go the other way. But you can kind of understand the confidence we've got and the belief that we can win the last the last 3 games. Like I said, Gillingham looks quite tricky. Bromley's results are a bit sort of all over the place at the moment because they've done their first objective and established themselves as a league club and done so quite comfortably with some quite decent wins. They've beaten Doncaster. They've had a couple of draws with Walsall and so on, but they're not. They're quite sort of awkward and robust as we saw in the reverse game. But you would hope that Swindon have improved enough from that sort of game, which I think was at the end of December, wasn't it, to where we are now,
Christmas
and
game,
with home advantage that you'd have enough to turn them over. But it might, and suddenly I guess there is that sort of tension that it's just a little bit back on, whereas for the past couple of games it hasn't been really.
Well, we saw that with Fleetwood and Grimsby, I think, didn't we? And you could the crowd got increasingly tense and frustrated as well, didn't it? And I suppose once that starts creeping in, that affects your game a lot, as we've seen in football over the years. Nothing is certain, is it? Although results this afternoon have meant certain things, which I won't reveal because probably people will watch Match of the Day or whatever later, so I don't want to spoil it for people. But anyway, let's have a look. Kemp kissed the badge, pointed to the ground, still left, says she. If we keep the majority of that team together for next season, we will go up, says Mark. Well, here we are, head-to-head against Bromley in the league. Played 1-0, drawn 1, lost 0. Longello on 72 minutes. A fine goal, if I remember rightly, from an acute angle. In the FA Cup, the 20th of November, 1976. Swindon Town 7, Bromley 0. That'd do. McHale on 25 minutes. The late, great Dave Syrett on 63 and 77. Dave Moss on 66 and 89. And the wonderful Trevor Anderson on 72 and 87. Anybody want to guess who the sub was that day?
Rogers?
No. Yes, correct. Absolutely. Don Rogers.
I was thinking probably would that be his last season, I think?
Yeah, it was, yeah. The great Don Rogers was substitute that day. Well guessed. Very good. So Bromley tomorrow. They're coming here, aren't they, Rob? And as we know... I'll give you that team that day, shall I? Allen, and then across the back, the wonderful Will Dixon, Hazelwood, Profit, and John Trollope. Stroud, McHale, McLaughlin midfield, Anderson, Syrett, and Moss. Wow, what a team that was. One of the best teams we had. Absolutely fabulous. Right, Bromley are coming tomorrow then, Rob. A certain H. McCurdy in the squad. I'm sure and as we said before, I really hope he gets a good reception because he was terrific. Talking of playoffs, though, the good and the bad we saw, did we not? What are your thoughts on it? I mean, it is one of those games. Everybody's going to turn up. There'll be a lot of kids there, kid a quid, I think, as well. So hopefully it'll be a good atmosphere. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, my one endearing memory of that game at Bromley was the fact that they had somebody who was 23 foot tall at centre half.
Yes.
So I'm presuming Sawumni is still playing for Bromley because I haven't seen him move anywhere. And assuming he is, then we're actually going to find somebody who actually still towers above Harry Smith, which will be the second time this season. But there's nobody else that's done it. So perhaps our game plan has to be slightly different to what it's been of recent times to take on Bromley, because the big ball down the middle is not likely to be successful tomorrow. We do need to use the pace we've got a little bit wider up front and get players forward winning balls in midfield in the same way that we did it away from home at Grimsby. Suffocate them. Bromley won't be playing the ball from the back. I think we safely assume that they'll be going a lot more direct. So they pose a very different challenge in as much as they have different types of players and they have no pressure on them as well. So it's a very similar situation, I guess, to what teams have been looking at Swindon over the course of the last few weeks and saying they're going to play free with no pressure as well. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's a different challenge. And that's something now, the very nature of the fact that we're talking about a very outside squeak of the playoffs possibly puts a little bit more pressure, especially playing at home, on our own players. Have they got the nous now to be able to turn this around in a slightly different way? If they keep playing carefree football like they've been playing, I don't doubt we'll go out there tomorrow and win quite comfortably. But I do think this is actually a very tricky game and a lot trickier than probably people are making it out to be.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Jamie, before we get onto the game itself, I would think Bromley's toilet facilities are up there with Grimsby's as probably the worst in League Two. Although Bromley have an excuse, don't they? To be fair, I'm not sure what Grimsby's excuse is, but anyway, what about the game itself?
I think, to be fair, this season it improved on the first time we went there, where there was literally flowers growing in the men's toilets out of the roof. I seem to remember the first time we went there. But I'm with Rob. I think it's a tricky one. I think there's one thing for sure: they're going to be a hell of a lot more physical than Grimsby were. And I've got a kind of lingering question: will Clark be able to play two games so close together? So actually, is this potentially a Harry Smith going back into defence job? To Rob's point, against the 23-foot centre back as well, actually having a bit of pace up front might not be a bad idea, and actually turn him over, because I know he was massive, but I don't think he was quick. So
No, he certainly wasn't quick.
Is that a different approach?
He didn't have to be. One stride was 6 foot, wouldn't it?
Is that a bit of a different approach to keep it down a bit, rather than I think if we start launching it at him and it becomes a Harry Smith versus him battle, I'm not sure that's the best game plan. But I think it's going to depend on the start. I think we need a really good start, and I think the crowd need to get behind them. If we can get ahead, I don't think I have any doubt we'll steamroller them. I think it's maybe everyone keeping calm and making sure there's not that nervousness creeps in when maybe we don't get ahead in the first 10 or 15 minutes. And then I think that's probably the key. But I think they will be a bit more of a robust challenge tomorrow rather than finesse. I think that's probably my view on it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to make. We should also mention that there's the designated Her Game 2 game tomorrow, and as I understand it, the Swindon women's team that won the Wiltshire FA Cup last week will parade the trophy at half time, so it'd be nice to give them a round of applause for their 7-0 victory over Purton last weekend. So that's tomorrow, as well as Kidd-a-Quid, so a busy old time, I think. What are your thoughts on it, Phil?
I thought the game at Bromley, we didn't wake up soon enough, that we should have gone at them more up there. We got intimidated by them, I felt, at times. Yes, they are big, but I think we weren't using the flanks like we are now. And I think that will cause them problems, because Bromley were strong down the centre. But I think, we have now got the ability to get round them at the flanks. I'm wondering tomorrow whether he'll play Delaney at the back if Clark is not available, to keep Smith up front, because Smith does give us something. And if it is a big one up there, the defender, and he was a giant, wasn't he? We don't want to concede everything to him in that way. But the crowd, I think, will be very important tomorrow. We need to get a good start to the game, because the last few home matches, the crowd have been really roaring them on, haven't they? It's been a real get behind the team, and that, really has turned games. So if it is a big crowd tomorrow, I hope they're not coming just as mere spectators, but they will play their part in roaring the team on.
Well, that's the one thing about the county ground of recent times. The atmosphere has been amazing, hasn't it? It's been fantastic. Hi, Gary. I thought you can see that at the bottom of the table. Oh, goodness, a long note coming in as well. I thought Grimsby 6 was good on Friday, and we definitely play our best football on sound surfaces. We'll discuss that in a minute, perhaps. Adrian says, breaking news, Harry McCurdy's penalty against Vale in the playoffs. The ball has just landed in my garden. I think we all, Hasniel, Joffrey and Barnett, I think we'll also mention in that similar vein. Wasn't very funny at the time, though, was it? I don't seem to think it was very funny at the time. If we keep the majority of that team together for next season, we'll go up, says Mark. I think our defenders can make the mistake of marking cheek like teams do with Smith. Gary says, I remember the great Will Dixon kicking chunks out of George Best against Fulham in the Cup years ago. What a game that was. Fabulous. Carol says, Port Vale lose should be condemned. Yeah, not good either. You don't have this delight, do you, Andrew? You have the nice cushy toilets in the executive boxes and stuff, don't you?
Oh, obviously, all the time. Actually, to be kind of fair to Grimsby, where the stand, I think really does have its origins in the 1920s. They've actually done a really good job in I think there's definitely like a new bit of roof on there, so we weren't getting hit with rust. and the toilets are somewhat primitive, but they were at least kind of primitive and smart and clean. So a little bit of kudos to Grimsby for investing in the facilities there, as well as putting together a normally quite decent team. Although we wouldn't say that from what we saw on Saturday.
No. It's kind of pot, kettle, and black. Us criticising other people's toilets, though, isn't it?
No. They're far from it. I am complimenting the quality of the Grimsby facilities.
Let's get into ground development, shall we? Or maybe not. We haven't got time. So Bromley tomorrow. Who's with you, by the way, Andrew? Tomorrow?
Paul Bowden is with us.
Oh right, okay. He was a delight at the Former Players Association dinner on Thursday night, which was the first one in a long time. Great to see him there and looking so well, alongside Tom Jones. John Trollope was there, Keith Morgan, Terry Woolen, of course, who was John Trollope, the youngest pair of fullbacks in English football history. Phil Smith was there, another compatriot of yours, Andrew. So it was lovely to see so many former players. And Laura Morgan, 100+ appearances for the women's team, also present. So it was a great night. So what do you think about Bromley then, Andrew?
I think I'm quietly hopeful. I think Jamie's right that they're going to be, and everyone, that they're going to be different. They're going to be more kind of physical and more robust. And obviously Cheek's been in kind of exceptional form, really. Takes a good penalty, quite strong in the air. Just seems to sort of be one of those kind of penalty box predator sort of players. But you'd have to be hopeful that if we can maintain the kind of standards we've had for most of the recent games, that there's enough in us to turn them over. But like I say, it might require being particularly robust and being a little bit patient. But it's hard not to be encouraged on the back of recent form.
Yeah. This is from Ash. It's so nice that we're talking about playoffs when we go back to where we were after Colchester. This is season 62 for me, and there have been the highs and the lows. The Swindon roller coaster always keeps us interested in our team. I go into tomorrow with both confidence and trepidation. My 3 grandsons who come to the county ground with me are really excited and dreaming about the playoffs. But I, like you, know that football doesn't always go with your dreams, but the confidence this team is showing, maybe, just maybe. You see, that sums up being a football fan in one little article, doesn't it, Rob? I mean, that's it, isn't it, in a nutshell?
It's the hope that kills you. We've said that so many times, isn't it? And
yes.
It does, because let's be honest. If you'd have said to us after that on the coach on the way back from Colchester that we'd be having this conversation now, we'd be laughed out of town, wouldn't we? Quite frankly, because we were at such a low ebb that you couldn't see an obvious way forward for that team. But in many ways, or however bad that night was, and those of us who were there remember it so well, it's the catalyst for where we are now. Because Ian Holloway realised that that team couldn't play that way any longer. They had to play differently. They had to find different ways of playing against teams. They had to find a couple of additional players to supplement what we already had. And he's just gone out and got it. And obviously we've seen the transformation in that side so dramatically over the course, especially of these last 2 or 3 months. It's just been such a difference. Away from home especially. Away from home we were struggling to pick up any kind of positivity. But 5-1 at Carlisle, 4-0 at Fleetwood, 4-0 at Grimsby, the 2-goal recovery at Doncaster when all seemed lost. We could roll them off, to be honest. There's been a couple of blips at Harrogate and Morecambe, we know that. But generally speaking, Walsall away, where at that time they were still flying. There's been so many much improved performances, as well as the confidence coming back on the terraces too. So it's just been some bizarre ride this season. I don't think any of us could have predicted we would be where we are now. Could there be a fairy tale ending? Yes, there could. Of course there could. We can all cling to that hope for as long as that hope remains. But let's be honest, that hope may disappear tomorrow, or it could be 3 points away tomorrow. So we could be thinking in a completely different way by this time tomorrow evening, or we could still be just thinking, oh, well, that season's just going to peter out now for the last 2 games. Let's hope it's the former.
It's been interesting. I think that's a word for it, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's not been a mundane run-of-the-mill season. This. Hi, Mark. I'll be renewing my season ticket for next season, as Ian Holloway has done a fantastic job. Shame we didn't appoint him a month earlier. I don't think there's anybody going to disagree with you on that one. The crowd against Bradford was the best it's been all season. Let's hope we can all get out there tomorrow and cheer them on. Come on, you Reds. I mean, dreams and things, that's what it's about, Jamie, isn't it? I mean, we all want to win the Champions League, you know. Ain't gonna happen, but it's that dream, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it is easy to forget at the moment that coming back from, forget whether it's Colchester or any of the games after that, in December, I think any of us would have given our right arm to have been going to the last couple of games of the season with a cat and house chance of staying up. Because I don't think at that point we were more worried about being well off of pace going into the last couple of games, let alone when we're dreaming of the playoffs bit. But that is the madness of football, and quite frankly, that's why it'll be the 40th season for me next year or whatever it is, because that's what we live for, isn't it? And it's a bit weird because I was talking to someone else who supports a different team, who don't have drama year in, year out, and have probably only been involved in a few seasons of promotion, but 10 or 15 of those seasons are pretty much just middle of the table. Christ, I don't think I can imagine what that's like, because we're either involved in kind of doom and gloom and disaster, or some kind of excitement of going for a promotion. And I think it goes back. Remember those kind of polls you get where it's like which team's like involved in the most ups and downs? We've got to be up there, haven't we? Still, because it's never dull. I just quite like to have a season where we just absolutely storm it and there's no stress. That would be quite nice. But I will also take scraping into the playoffs and then a fantastic 3 games that we win easily at Wembley 4-0. That'd be quite nice as well.
Yeah, I just go back to the COVID season. It was such a swindly thing to do to win the League Two campaign without actually winning it, if you see what I mean. We even missed out on that. I mean, that's the way it is, isn't it? It's proper football now.
Sorry, I think one of the things, though, I think it is important is, wouldn't it be nice for that kid of quid and a stadium full of potentially the next generation having that excitement going into the end of a season? Because that's what will bring them back, isn't it? That's what made us all hook us all at some point. That means we go through the bad times. So I think I just love us to turn up when we've got a big crowd with loads of kids in it and actually cement some kind of long-term support. For me, that would be the biggest bonus if we could.
Hey, my first 2 or 3 seasons, we won the Football League Cup. We won the Anglo-Italian Cup. I just thought that was going to go on forever. I just thought that's how it was. Unfortunately, it didn't. It's proper football now. Holloway always has a plan B and goes for the win right until the end. No tippy-tappy football. As Andrew said right at the beginning there, Phil, that's a big change, isn't it? I think even Man City have been caught out a little bit now, and actually football does evolve. And we've seen that under Holloway, haven't we? He plays a direct style, but not a hoof it up the field style. It's direct with pace.
But I think that one of the key things, and I was pondering just now, was when did you see a manager change the fitness levels mid-season? Like Holloway? Normally they rely on getting in the summer, and that's enabled them to play the different style, the pressing style, the energy. As he keeps saying, it's what they do off the ball, which has been key to a lot of our performance now. And it's that fitness has enabled them to adapt the style. And I think, in games, he's had plan A, B, C, D, and E. And even Z plus, because Harry Smith said that they hadn't a clue what plan they were playing at the end of the Bradford game. But I think the key has been that fitness has enabled him to adapt the style to the game. And he got that into them somehow. How you do that during the season, I don't know.
No. I can fairly safely predict that we won't see Harry Smith on the wing. Or will we? We just don't know, do we? Just don't know. All right, we'll round it up quickly. We've got Bromley tomorrow. What do you reckon, Andrew? What's the score going to be? Any idea?
2-1 win, bit of stress. McCurdy gets a goal. McCurdy gets a goal for them to make it 1-1, but someone pops up with a late winner because that's what happens.
Of course we'll have a bit of stress. That goes without saying. Without the hard times, you can't appreciate the good times, says Derek. That's absolutely true. Rob?
I'm trying to think of a scoreline we haven't had. Let's go with 6-5. We haven't had that this season yet. That's probably most likely. I do think we'll win tomorrow. I do think we'll win relatively comfortably. 4-1.
Oh, 4-1. Jamie?
I'm gonna go for a 3-2 win, but we go one down.
Of course we do. Phil?
3-1.
Right.
Just Wyndham.
Yeah. Is that 3-0 and they get one in the last minute, or
No, they'll get one early.
Right. Just to add to the levels of stress.
Yeah.
Okay. Never easy, is it, eh? Well, I think it's going to be 3-1-2, actually. So I'll go along with you there. Yeah.
3-1-2.
3-1-2. Well, who knows with us? Could be. Could be 31-2 for all we know. We've no idea the way we play. It's unbelievable.
Andrew, have they got a long throw expert? Do we need ball bouncing?
I think they have. Yes, I can't remember who it is, but I think
centre half like that.
I think pretty much everyone has acquired a long throw expert this season. So,
well, to be honest, Andrew, with a centre half like that, you would, wouldn't you? Surely.
Yeah.
I mean, fling the big bloke in the box and chuck the ball at him.
Yeah, I think it was Callum Reynolds last time, but he's left. So, but I'm sure they'll have another big bloke who can luzz it into the box at 100 miles an hour.
We look forward to it. There we are. Don't forget the Her Game 2 game tomorrow and Kid a Quid. So it should hopefully be a very, very good atmosphere. There you are, Chris. Are you with us?
I am.
Chris?
Thank you very much,
yeah.
guys. Lovely to spend sorry, I'm delayed again, obviously. Lovely to spend a Sunday evening with you. Vic and I will be back next week. Until then, we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye.